think we should go ahead and get started. Might as well introduce ourselves real quick. So I am Gabby. I'm the marketing manager here at Showdigs. And Showdigs and ReRaw were not associated at all. Just James and I connected through a Facebook group actually and hit it off and decided like we had some stuff to say about this subject. So Showdigs, if you're not familiar with it, we pay licensed real estate agents to show nearby rental properties. We're operating in a handful of markets. We can get to that later, but definitely check us out if you haven't heard of us yet. And James?
What's happening? So I am James out here in sunny Southern California and hot, sunny, drought-ridden, fire-burning California. I've been selling houses since 2013. I started a coaching company in 2018, and I teach from my actual tactical, practical experience out in the field. So I come from I share in the misery and all of the successes and failures that y'all do as well. I've, just picked up a new listing yesterday and, working with buyers and sellers all the time. So, just here to fire off some fun with you guys. And, like Gabby and I said, we're not selling anything today. It's just intended to get y'all some information. If you have any questions, Gabby, if we didn't mention this, if you have any questions, here's how we're going to do this. We want to be really respectful of your time because we know, first of all, we know it's Friday and everyone's getting ready for their weekend war. So, we're going to limit this to about 25, 30 minutes. And, but we're both going to stick around if you have any questions. So we've got some content we want to blow through. And then if you have questions along the way, jam them into the chat so that we don't lose them. And then what we'll do is we'll come back at the end and we'll go through and address all those questions. We'll hang out for a little bit longer. So we've created some margin for that, but we want you guys to all have a chance to just get through the content that we promised, and then we'll answer the other stuff later. So
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
So, we're talking about the first year of real estate, right? So we threw up some numbers here. I don't think any of this is going to be super surprising to you guys, but we just wanted to kind of set the stage of, what you're up against really. So, you're spending thousands of dollars just to like take the courses, take the exam, become a real estate agent, get your license. And then according to, these other sources, like it can take 6 months to a year to even start making money, 18 months before you can expect a profit. The average real estate agent makes $15,000 in their first year. And then there's this other even, sadder statistic. Realtors with 2 years or less experience earn a median gross income of $8,900. So that is not a livable wage, no matter where you're at, which means that the challenge is you've spent so much time, effort, money, blood, sweat, tears, all this stuff just to become a real estate agent. You don't make any money just to be a real estate agent. In fact, you have to pay a bunch of money. And then you've got your monthly desk fees or broker fees, commission splits. So the main challenge, the thing we're trying to answer today is like, how can you actually start making money? And so there are these, traditional ways that agents are taught to make money. Obviously, the first one, make a sale, easier said than done, right? We talk about leveraging your sphere, reaching out to your network. You can network with your top producers in your area, title companies, divorce lawyers. Yeah, James.
Well, which by the way, I just want to emphasize, all of the traditional ways are good ways to make money. They're not bad. But we want to give you guys a little perspective on this, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize, like, we're kind of, I know the tone is like, oh yeah, here's all the traditional ways to make money, but the reality is that these are traditional ways to make money. The goal is to get your mind to bend a little bit today, but these are all good things that you should not discount, even though we're going to be talking about a couple other things. Keep going.
Definitely. Thank you for putting that in there. So then, we've got these traditional ways, as James said. Then, we're looking at real estate gigs because realistically, a lot of real estate agents are turning towards gig work. It's flexible. You can do as much or as little as you want to make the money that you're not making when you don't have a sale under your belt. So you can see the list there, taking marketing photos if you're into photography, becoming a, VA, like a virtual assistant or a notary, all these ways that you can make money, including showing properties. We'll talk about rentals in a bit because I don't think people really talk about rentals too much. We're talking about traditional ways. And then, James, I kind of want to open this up to ask you,
Yeah.
these are what people are traditionally doing. And you're talking about bending our mind a little bit. So what is something we can do like differently, or something that's like unique from what we have here on this slide?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, I think the first thing is it's not about, this isn't about like reinventing the wheel, right? So we're not, when we talk about like bending the mind, it's not like we're talking about going out and like, changing the whole world, but sometimes it's about learning how to leverage opportunity that's already there just a little bit differently. And if it's all right with you, I want to make sure that we walk away today with two different opportunities for you to be able to lead generate. So I'm going to give you one that helps you get buyers, and I'm going to give you one that helps you get sellers. And we only have limited time, so I'm going to do surface level here, but I wanted to get you thinking. And like I said, if you have questions, then ask them. So the first thing that I think is one of the most overlooked ways to make money, and don't hate me, because I know it's not going to be raining in the tens of thousands of dollars on every deal, but I think one of the most overlooked ways to make money in real estate is to work with tenants, especially in your first year. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, and I'll go through a quick strategy with you, but number one, um, tenants produce buyers in the long term. But what they do in the short term is they provide you a ton of experience when it comes to showing properties, when it comes to, navigating a transaction. And here's the best part. We are burdened with this like responsibility that I don't know that enough agents really take as seriously as they should, to handle these massive transactions. I mean, real estate investments are considered on average the largest investment that most people will make in their lifetime. Even if they never buy a house, what they spend their money on housing is a huge part of their wage, right? And
Yep.
so having the opportunity to work in an environment with tenants, for example, where it's not that there's not big money on the line, but there's less money on the line. There's less risk for both you and the client. There's not as big of a financial exchange as typically in a purchase or sale. And it gives you a great way to show properties, to get used to answering those real estate questions. And if you do a good enough job, you can help position those people to go, to become buyers later, right? You can start asking those questions. Hey, so have you thought about buying? Why are you not buying now? If you're not ready to buy now, maybe let's get you into a property and we'll start game planning that, right? So
Totally.
tenants, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like we're here in Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like a lot of the big cities with industry, tech, whatever, you see a lot of people who move here for a job. They're trying, they just started this new job. They want to get their feet wet and just find a place for a year or so. So I think you see a lot of people who want to rent for about a year, and then they're interested in like setting roots down and purchasing after that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not talking to renters because we think, oh, there's no money in that in the short term, I think there's like a huge, loss there, as far as like there's a lot of potential for like long-term opportunity, I think.
Yeah, big time. And so the first deal that I ever did in real estate was a rental deal. And I paid a 50% referral fee on it. In fact, my wife is sitting just over here, John Edelson, who my wife actually is a transaction coordinator. She runs files for John to this day. John Edelson came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I'm going out of town to visit my daughter. Um, I've got a rental client. If you want to work with this tenant, find him a place." And I was like, "Dude, are you kidding me? Thank you." And at first I thought he was just shoveling the deal to me. And he goes, "You got to pay me 50%." And I was like, "Dude, what are you talking? Like, how cheap are you? Like this, I'm negative before I even fill up my gas tank." And the guy's like, "You're the new one." And I was like, "All right, whatever." But you know what? I worked with that tenant. I got a lot of experience showing properties, and I'm so glad that I did, because that tenant referred 4 people to me over the course of the next 6 months, and I closed $2.4 million worth of transactions off of them. And it's funny because I didn't even close that tenant in a purchase. To this day, I haven't closed that tenant into a purchase 8.5 years later. But he's referred
Whoa.
a ton of business, and the business that was referred to me has also referred business. So it's amounted in many, many, many millions more. And so
Right.
I think it's overlooked. And I'm going to give a little trick on the rentals, by the way. it, Rentals are not huge money, but you should understand that everything all averages out in the end. So sometimes it's like you might make $50 on a rental, which is a total ripoff, by the way, and we all got screwed if that happened. But you can also make a few $100 or $1,000, if you get a property rented out. Keep in mind that tenants turn faster than a traditional purchase or sale client. So the sales
Yep.
cycle is a lot different, right? And so we have to recognize that if we need to get a few $100 in our pocket quick, working a couple of tenants is like a really good way to do that. And you're not only serving your immediate pocketbook, but you're filling your long-term pipeline. Whereas a purchase or sale client on average takes 3 to 6 months to close. Typically, tenants don't even start writing applications or filling out applications for properties until they're within 30 days of their actual move out date. Because if they
Right.
do, then
Yeah.
like the landlords are like, dude, I'm not putting this
Yeah.
property on hold for you for 2 months and having it sit vacant because you're in a lease until the end of September or whatever. You know what I mean? So the
Totally.
timing works out a little bit better. Go ahead. I feel like, did you want to jump in for a minute?
I no,
You
I think
look
what
like
you're
you had a
saying is,
question brewing, but if not, I'll
it
be
was
quiet.
more like I was just so like excited about what you were saying because again, I just, you're in the industry, you're like hearing what people are talking about. And of course, over on my side at Show Digs, we're all about rentals. So like
Yeah.
that's what, my head's in. But I just haven't seen the type of like conversations about rentals that like that we're having now. So I'm mostly just excited about what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we move, we have a webinar about, how to make money during your first year. So if we
Yeah.
talked about rentals, we could talk about rentals till the cows come home, really. But
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have other ideas as far as like if you were to go back to 2003 or whatever when you first started as an agent,
Mm-hmm.
and you can think about that first year. Besides saying yes to that, to the guy that referred the rental client to you, can you think of like other things you would do differently or something that you did your first year that you were like, yes, I would do that the same, or maybe that is your story about your
No,
rentals?
it was just the rentals. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Hey,
That's it.
really quick, I want to answer that, but I would be remiss if I didn't close the loop on this. I want to just emphasize one more point on the tenants really quick. A
Totally.
lot of agents, particularly experienced agents, it's not that they don't value a tenant, but they literally may not have time to work them because they're like, yo, I have specifically like 15 listings and 5 buyers and whatever it is. And they're like, I'm not going to, step over a couple. I'm not going to pick up a couple $100 at the expense of a $20,000 check. Like, sorry, I value the tenant, but that's where they're hiring buyers agents or looking for assistance. A lot of experienced agents don't have teams, don't have that stuff. So one of the things that you can do is go up to the seasoned agents and say, hey, I'm not asking for a handout. I will pay you a referral fee even on the tenant. Or you could even be like really generous and say, I'd like to work with your tenant for free, but if I get them to convert later into a purchase, I'll pay you a referral fee later on the purchase, give them the big bucks, right? But what you do
Hmm.
is you approach some of those experienced agents and say, not looking to take your clients, but if you get any tenants or if you get, that kind of stuff, then what you do is you say, I'd like to work them. I'm sure you don't have time for a measly few $100 or whatever, like kind of make it like, you got way bigger fish to fry, right?
You don't need this.
Yeah, and then they come in and are kind of like, wow, look at the ambition there. Like you're willing to take some of that, and you're gaining some experience, building those relationships, and quite frankly, you can build a lot of confidence with those tenants early on. So that's the first thing that kind of closed the loop on the tenants. Okay, and I see some
Yeah.
questions coming in about rental stuff, and will answer some of those questions at the end and address some of the comments that you're making. Um, as a quick, and Gabby didn't ask me to do this, but just to throw the sad shit, I think you mentioned we met through a Facebook group, and
Yes.
I just liked, I just kind of liked what you were talking about in that Facebook group, and we connected in a private message, and it was like, yo, like we kind of had a cool conversation, and then it led to, well, we should talk more, and we should talk more to people publicly, and like see what happens.
Yeah.
So Show Digs, to give you all an example, is kind of like if I may make the comparison, is kind of like the
Please.
DoorDash for rentals. And
Yep.
I bet you that at some point, by the way, if you see Kobe's beautiful face on here, Kobe's the founder of Show Digs.
Founder CEO. Yeah.
We've stolen his Zoom account here to host this today. So he's, that's the good looking guy that's on here as well. But what I was going to say is Show Digs is cool because it's kind of like the DoorDash of real estate, if you will. And there's no cost to it. You just get paid to go out and show rental properties. Now, if you get if you get the chance to do that, you shouldn't try to rip off their clients and go sell them a house. But my point is,
Yes, please don't.
but my point
We
is,
like we make sure, yeah, we make sure to tell our agents not to steer
yeah,
prospects away from rental properties. But we, just like what we're talking about here, we're like 100% recognize that today's renters are tomorrow's buyers.
yeah, yeah.
And I think typically the typical renter, I don't think knows any real estate agents. I'm a renter. I mean, I'm in the
I
industry,
mean, you
so I
know
guess
me,
I
of
know real
course,
estate
but yeah,
agents. Yeah, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like if I weren't working here, I wouldn't know real estate agents. And so we 100% encourage our agents if, someone mentions, "Oh, I'm here for a
hmm
year and then I'm interested in buying," or, to kind of ask what their, long-term plans are. We say, yeah, please do leave your
yeah,
contact
yeah,
information with this person. And again, it adds to that long-term strategy, and you get paid for the tour, and then
yeah.
whatever, but you're building out your pipeline for the future, and that's extremely valuable.
And shameless unsolicited plug, but if you I don't know, you don't need to show this now, but if you can pull up later, maybe before we get off of here, you could show everybody the markets that Showdig services currently. And excuse me, even if Showdigs isn't in your market currently, you guys connect with Gabby, because it's a really cool thing that they're doing. And if you're already in one of the markets they serve, this is a cool way to make some side hustle cash without having to do the actual door dashing, if you will, because I think that's a cool way to make money, but it's super not directly related to real estate. So Showdigs keeps you in the real
Exactly.
estate market, right?
Exactly. That's like, and we were talking about gig work for a little, like for a second there. And I see so many real estate agents who turn to gig work because it's a great opportunity to work when you can and, do your day job otherwise. But the thing is that I see so many agents who do work for DoorDash or Instacart
Yeah,
or, all the other unrelated gig works. And I think that's great. And there is, some value in driving around and like
sure.
learning new areas. But if you're going to spend your time doing gig work, at least the way I see it is you might as well try to stay in the industry that you're trying to like propel your career forward in.
Yeah,
And so, I think we always try to recommend, looking to find gig work within the real estate industry, because especially if you're new, it's only going to serve you even more to do this gig work in the industry, because you're not only making money, but you're gaining experience, which is only going to help you in the long run. So you can, drive for DoorDash if you'd like, but there are other options out there that I would highly recommend checking out, to help you kind of stay in the real estate industry and really like set
yeah,
your,
that's perfect. And so
yeah.
that's a good example, and I think that kind of ties the loop on like the tenant side. But and we'll address some of the questions and comments, like I said at the end. But you're going back to your question that you asked like an hour ago for me to actually move on from, because I'm so long winded. The question, I believe, was what else, if I could go back and start over, what else did
Yes.
I do, or what have I learned that I would implement in my first year to accelerate things, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do a little time machine back to the early
So
2000s.
I, contrary to popular belief, with all the technological advances that have gone on, and I'm an advocate for open houses. I love social media, digital and online marketing. Like it's all that stuff. I fire on all cylinders on that. The events are good, and a lot of the things that you showed on like the traditional ways to make money. But unquestionably and exponentially greater than any other form of lead generation I've done is direct mail. And I'm not talking postcards and geographical farming. I'm not talking door hangers that you leave behind when you're door knocking or pretending to door knock, and like where you drop and go kind of thing. I'm talking like a typed letter in a hand addressed envelope with a normal 55-cent forever stamp. No indicia, no every door direct, no bulk, like straight up direct mail. It is single-handedly the most highly targeted lead generation approach that you can take. You can literally reach out to people on an individual basis. And I have one lead gen strategy with direct mail that has alone generated over $200 million in off-market listing leads just for this ugly guy. So one of the and to give you kind of the bird's eye view, I'll back up for a minute. When we do any kind of lead generation, it's about solving a problem. And one of the reasons agents don't survive in this business is really because they don't know how to lead generate. They focus on buying leads, Op City referral fees, and Zillow leads, and that kind of stuff. And what we really need to make sure we're focusing on is learning how to lead generate, but not only learning how to lead gen, understanding the most favorable market conditions to apply the strategies that you learn. So it doesn't matter if we're in a buyer market, a seller market, or, like maybe a market that you can use any strategy you want. There's always something that you can pull out of the toolbox to be able to implement and make happen. And so what I found, I'm feeling I want to look up this way. All right. So what I found is with direct mail, I'm trying to be cool and use both cameras because I got them. So
It is cool.
so what I found is direct mail is really, really awesome with that. And to give you kind of the quick overview of the strategy that's generated so much for me, they all generate a lot, but this is like the best strategy ever. It comes from the perspective of solving problems, as all lead generation does. So we have to think about is what exactly are we solving for? At the most basic level, what is everybody trying to accomplish? Every seller needs what? And I guess I'll just ask the participants today, like every seller has a problem, right? And the problem
Right.
is they want to sell their home. What is the one thing that every seller needs to solve that problem? Who here can answer that? We've got a bunch of you on here. So just give me a quick one. I'm not going to wait for more than 15 seconds for an answer. But if a seller wants to sell a home, a homeowner wants to sell, what's the one solution to their problem? Just give me a quick answer. Where they want to move. Okay. Maybe Susan, but yep, there we go. Don nailed it. Buyer. That's exactly
Hmm.
right. The buyer is the solution to the seller's problem. And I know, ready, willing, and able buyer, and they got to be qualified. Look, but at the most simple level, a buyer is the solution to the seller's problem, right? On the reverse side of that, every buyer who wants to purchase a home is looking for one thing. What's the solution to the buyer's problem? A home to purchase, right? Like it's the opposite. And so when you look at that most basic thing, you can sit there and go, gosh, okay, so if I'm in a market where I need to get more buyers, then because there's so many homes for sale, then going into that tenant pool is a good place to get them and tell tenants maybe they could buy a house and I can guide them through that process. But we're in a market
Hmm.
in most parts of the country where we're still short on inventory. Even if it's starting to sit a little bit longer, we're still really, really, really depressed on the inventory numbers that we have. So, doesn't it make sense that if I'm a brand new agent, I have no buyers and no sellers of my own to leverage at all, but I'm connected to other agents in my office who 100% of them, and I mean this, 100% of the working agents in my office are like, dude, I got to tell you, I can't find a house for my buyer to save my life. There's 362 offers on every home. They're all going for $8 billion above listing price. Nothing's appraising. We're all screwed. Well, guess what? If Gabby tells me that she has a buyer, she's in my brokerage and she's got a buyer looking specifically for a home in one of three neighborhoods. If anybody has something coming up, please let Gabby know. If I pay attention to the exact communities that Gabby's looking for a place in, and I know that it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom for under $3 billion, like whatever it is, with a view and a swimming pool and a Lamborghini and whatever it is, it doesn't matter the criteria. But if Gabby tells me exactly what her buyer's looking for, what do I now have? I have a problem that I can solve. And the problem is
Yeah.
that Gabby is the one that has the problem, but I'm the solution guy. I'm going to literally take letters and go send out letters to the three neighborhoods that Gabby has a buyer for. And I'm going to say, hey, everybody, I've got access to a buyer through one of my colleagues looking for a home in your neighborhood. And if you're thinking of selling, I'd love to facilitate a private showing. I mean, think about this is the single best example I can give you. It's not, we talk about like, oh yeah, geo farming and doing all this stuff. The reality is we just have to think a little bit differently about how we solve problems. If you need buyers, where can you get them from? If you need sellers, doesn't it make sense to approach the sellers or the homeowners, prospective sellers, that you already have the solution for? Hey, everybody, if you're thinking of selling, my colleague already has the solution to your problem, and I'd love to get paid to connect the dots. I would go back my
Yeah.
first year and do exponentially more direct mail, and I would change what direct mail meant to me, because back then it was all about like geographical farming and postcards twice a month and all that stuff. And I would be like, nope, hand selected targets only to the people and the places that live in the neighborhoods that I already have access to buyers for, and I would leverage the ever-loving life out of that all
I think
day long.
that's I think that's genius. First of all, I think direct mail, like how you said, just in a envelope, plain, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Um, Already, I think that's a smart idea because I know personally, I actually, what with all the digital marketing that there is these days, I actually don't get that much mail anymore. I don't know about you might, but I really just don't get that much
Mm,
mail. So I actually am excited when I do, especially if it is like an envelope.
sure.
But like more than just, kind of the surface level mail is kind of exciting to some people. I think that being able to approach, like, it just makes so much sense, right? Like, if you know what the problem is, being able to just be like, here's the solution, duh. Like, it seems so obvious. And I think that you're right. It's more of a mindset thing than anything. Because it's not like you're saying anything like totally revolutionary, but I think the fact that the way you set it up and the way it's like, oh, just if you have a buyer, you know what the solution will be, or like if you have a seller, you know how you can
Yeah.
find the solution. And I think that when you have that, a lot of times you just think like, oh, I just gotta like put it out into the ether and like hope something happens, or like scramble to try to like
Sure.
find anyone to take the bait. But if you're more strategic with who you select to offer the bait to, you're going to be a lot more likely to get a bite.
Yeah, and I know you guys know this because you're in the rental space and you work with a lot of landlords and property managers and stuff like that. But, kind of going just to give one other quick perspective, but going back to like the rental side of things, I know that at the end of 12 months, every renter has to make a decision.
Yep.
They're either asking to extend their lease, they're looking to move and rent a different place, or they're looking to move and purchase. But one of those three things will happen. So doesn't it make sense? And like I said, you guys are probably already doing this kind of stuff where you're looking at landlords that own multiple properties that are coming up. They're 9 months into their 12-month, on average, 9 months into their 12-month leases or whatever, right? Most leases are 12 months. So you start going, okay, cool. I'm going to reach out to these guys because I know that the owner of the property or the property management company also has decisions to make. Is their landlord going to re-rent it? Are they going to extend the tenant? Are they going to whatever? And you start prepping that, right? So guys, it's about identifying those problems and trying to solve them. And I hope this gives you, we're kind of running low on time, and I'll stay and answer questions, but I want to make sure I'm letting all of you go with something that's useful and tangible. But does this at least give me a yay or nay, like in the chat box there? I know we blew through a ton of stuff like really really fast, but does this give y'all something to think about differently? Is this helpful information?
Yeah.
Does that help you like stretch your brain in a way that maybe you weren't thinking about before? Different
Yeah,
perspective.
our goal was to have you guys be able to at least walk away with like one aha moment at least, if
Yeah.
not several. But we did kind of blow through content, we didn't want to have to make this too long, and
Even
just
if the
kind
aha moment was like, aha, James does look as good as his headshot, you
of.
know? Okay, so really
Oh,
quick.
thank you, Don.
Oh, let's see. Tracy says this is good. What do I need to know is who can we contact in terms of landlord property managers? All right, cool. So we'll get to that. We're going to answer questions here in just a minute or two. So if you have questions, please answer that. Gabby, really quick, do you have anything that you can show the markets you service? For those of
Yes,
y'all
yeah, I
looking
was
for a little
just
gig
about to.
work and side hustle money and all that, like Show Digs is an expanding company, so they're
Yeah,
servicing.
so
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, that's great.
so currently we're in Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, and Denver as far as our major markets.
Okay.
But we do have plans to rapidly expand, especially over the next year or two. So if you are interested, if we're in your markets, definitely, check out our website. And if you're not, I still recommend checking out our website. If you fill out an application, you'll actually be put on our newsletter anyway, so that you can stay up to date with all these kinds of things. So as soon as we get to your market, you'll know.
Cool. I like that. That's fantastic. So where do people find
Yeah.
your stuff? There it
Well,
is.
I'll just pull up our little thank you page. So for Showdigs, if you want to go to showdigs.com/agents, that's where you'll learn everything about what it is to be a Showdigs agent. You can also stay connected with us on our Facebook page. It's just Show Digs HQ, or if you search Show Digs, you'll find us. And James, where can the people find you?
The people can find me right here on this webinar. No, so I'm at ReRaw.com. You guys, a lot of you probably found me on Facebook or know me from that. For those of you who don't, go to ReRaw.com and check out our website. We're constantly doing new things. In fact, through this pandemic, we've had massive evolution in the way that we're presenting content and driving opportunity to you. And then I've got a Facebook group. And if you're not a real estate agent, sorry, like if you're pre-licensed or a vendor or a lender or somebody else, you can't be in the group. But you can still harass me privately with messages or another more public facing Facebook groups. But my Real Estate Raw Facebook group is for licensed agents only. And that is a request that we honor, a rule that the members of the group set. We've got a few thousand actual licensed agents in that group, and we keep it to only licensed agents. So you avoid all the commercialization that we see in a lot of these other groups. So check that out. I feel like I had one other thing I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. So
Well, do
whatever.
we want to jump into some questions that we've gotten?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, really quick. Here's what I wanted to say before y'all leave. Um, if I may be so bold, I promised you that there was no sales pitch, but I do want to let you know about a free resource that I think would be really good for you. Um, freenewagentcourse.com. If you are looking for a little bit of guidance or help and all that kind of stuff, then check out free new. I'm going to post this in there, agentcourse.com. And you're not going to believe the price on this is unbelievable. It's free, just like the title says. But there's over 17 hours of training and content in there, including lead generation and some of the strategies more in depth that maybe we didn't have a chance to get to today. But lead generation is one element to a much bigger picture when it comes to running your, we're doing a quick half-hour webinar, so there's only so much you can do. But there's a ton of info and insight in there, from mindset to goal setting to environment to brokerage to lead generation, conversion, and follow-up and systems and all that stuff. So go check that out, freenewagentcourse.com. And I'm excited to see you guys expand. I want you guys down in my market like tomorrow. So
I know. Well, yeah, just you wait. We'll be
I
there.
love it. I love it. So yeah, let's answer some of those questions. Let me see. There weren't a ton, but let's kind of look through. Let me just look here. Okay. Would love to take on tenants, but the only way I've sourced them is through Op City, and they also take 35%. I've done mailers over 8 months. Tracy, this is for you. Tracy Levy, I think it is. I've done mailers over 8 months to touch, which specifically for still renting, buy something for you and your pets. Not those exact words, but kind of along those lines. So I think that one of the things that we forget about when it comes to tenants, Jenny, I see your hand up. Will you do me a favor and post a comment for me, or post in the chat window your question, and we'll get to you. I think with tenants, one of the things people forget is that you have the ability to look up stuff on the MLS.
So
Look up. Oh yeah, mute.
Be,
There you go, mute
we
Kobe.
go.
There, we're finding out all those deep dark secrets. So I think that so many people forget that the MLS is an incredibly valuable tool, and you can actually go on the MLS and check out all of the properties that have rented out in the last 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, right? So you can actually see when tenants leases, assuming you're making the assumption that the average lease is 12 months, but you can see the properties that people are renting out. And that not only gives you access to the property that a tenant is renting, but then you can probably access the tax records and see where the landlord's mailing address is, right? So you could approach them as an investor. But a really good way to source tenants, whether you want to send them direct mail like I do, like I recommend, or if you want to go bang on their door or drop something on their doorstep, you could very easily just go on the MLS and look up all the properties that have rented out in the last, that rented out 9 months ago, because in the next 2 to 3 months they have to make a decision about whether they're going to stay or if they're going to rent something else or buy something else, and you could literally convert them into a tenant who wants to move to another rental, or even potentially a buyer. So that's what I would start with. And by the way, Tracy, I know that Op City takes 35%, but and in some cases they actually take more than that. And I think it's sad that they do that. On the rental side, I think they should maybe offer a slightly better deal. But I will tell you, capitalize on that opportunity, because just like I said before, I paid a 50% referral fee to the very first deal I ever did, and I've got $2.4 million off of that directly, and that doesn't account for all the referrals I got after that from the other people that they had referred. So just, stay the course on it. Yeah. Let me see what else. By the way,
Oh,
Gabby, chime in, cut me off,
yeah.
and tell me to be quiet if you want to say something.
No, I was just gonna say I'm reading Susan's comment about how she finds more potential rental clients than she can handle by being in lots of Facebook groups for rentals, housing, communities, neighborhoods. I think that's an awesome idea. There are, for I would imagine, pretty much any major city, if not, into the suburbs, there are so many Facebook groups for people trying to, you know, rent, find places to rent. I'm in a bunch of those groups even before I worked here when I was looking for a place. So I think that's an excellent idea, is to, search city name, rentals, or find housing or whatever in your Facebook, and see if you can get into some of those groups. I think that's an awesome way to find potential renters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Let's see. What
trying to see if
creative
we have
way,
any other
Tracy also asked, what
questions.
creative way do you advise to get tenants close to home? I've met people who want to look 35 miles from where I work. Tracy, Gabby alluded to this already, but Facebook groups are a phenomenal way to do that.
Yeah.
Gabby, can you pull us up on the screen again? Sorry.
Yes, I will stop
There we go.
sharing. There we go.
So one of the things, kind of like what I mentioned already, is you can always go on the MLS and look for, the properties that are rented out close to you, geographically. But you also could create a Facebook group. Like where I'm at, I live in a city called Rancho Santa Margarita. There's like 40,000 people in it. And I could just be like Rancho Santa Margarita rental properties, right? Or Rancho Santa Margarita rental group. And it could be like rent anything from the lamp on your table to your house, whatever it is, right? And just do something fun for the community. But when you create a really specific Facebook group and then invite people who specifically live in that area, then it could be like moving to and then your city Facebook group, and then it accommodates renters, buyers and sellers, like whatever. And so I think that's probably a good way to do that, to jump into something that's like, create a Facebook group that's specific and close to where you are, post in local groups, post on Facebook Marketplace, and be specific, like, not, if you're looking for a house, I'd love to help you buy, sell, or rent. Like, you could be like, if you're looking to rent in this specific area, I'd love to, provide a list of available properties, right? And send me a private message and do your thing, right? Some of them are going to take that list and go figure it out on their own, but again, the purpose of that is to not only help you make the money, but to go through the exercise of doing the real estate activity with not a whole lot of risk. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll do that. I feel like I saw another one. Let's see. Good stuff.
Tracy, what I need to know is, who can we contact in terms of landlords or property managers to share
All
referrals?
right, give away your secrets, Gabby. Who do these people got to call?
um, you know, I don't know, James. I think this is a you question. I
It's
only know as much
proprietary
as
information. Gabby's not at liberty to disclose their tax. No, I'm just kidding. So, you know, um, who can we contact in terms of landlords, property managers to share referrals? I think, again, this goes back to, running searches in the MLS. Most MLSs give you some level of access to tax records and public information. Usually, even if it's just limited to the mailing address for the owner, or the name of the owner, that you can do like a reverse lookup on. Go to like instantcheckmate.com or truthfinder. I think truthfinder.com is better. It's like the whole thing, like, oh yeah, you can go see if the person you're looking up is a criminal, like whatever. But what's cool is you can actually plug in addresses there, and it'll give you like owner's information. I think it's like $30 a month or something, but you can pull up like owner's information and stuff like that. But again, your MLS should have some level of access to tax records that gives at least a mailing address and the name of somebody. And what I would recommend is that you um, look up properties that have rented out in the last, 6, 9, 12 months, and reach out to the tenants to see if they want to stay, go rent somewhere else, or purchase, and reach out to the owners and say, hey, like, If you're planning on, it looks like you've got a tenant that rented the property out like 9 months ago. If you're still thinking of, if they're thinking of moving and you need somebody to help you find a tenant, hit me up. Also, if you're thinking of, unloading the property and cashing in on your equity at the end of this, tenancy, please also give me an opportunity to interview. I'd be grateful, like whatever. Right. So I would look at straight up on the MLS. I think that's your best bet. Tracy's on
I think
fire
that's
with
a
these
great idea.
questions.
I know. Well, Tracy also let us know that there's a website called Find My Landlord,
There you go.
which offers maps and lists. So that's a great resource
That
as
sounds like
well.
a stalker type site, like where you'd be like, oh, find my landlord. All right. Yeah, I'm going to hunt him down. Not happy about that rent increase. All right, let's see. That's how we set up monthly campaign. Carrie Little did a training on this. Okay, I believe you. That's probably from before I stopped running my mouth. Let's see. We talked about from to all and all attendees. Oh yeah, I find more rental properties. You talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
True. I don't mind if it's a sale, but traveling around showing renters for weeks and months isn't worth it. Yeah, if you're showing one tenant like a billion properties to get them into a place, it may not be fruitful for you. But again, like I say, real estate. Everyone says, "Oh, real estate's a numbers game." Well, so is everything. And I'm a big advocate for being smarter with your numbers. Right. So, for example, if somebody says, well, it's a numbers game, right? So you're cold calling, it's a numbers game. You just have to cold call 8 million numbers to get like 3 people. It's like, okay, but if I know that I can do a little bit of research and then find, 15 phone numbers that are more likely to answer the phone because they meet certain criteria, then I'd rather just target the 15. So it's a numbers game, but it's also about being efficient with your numbers. And where I'm going with that is the same when you're actually showing properties and the same when you're working with certain clients. Some clients you're going to feel like you just got raked over the coals, like you're making no money on them, and you are and you feel like it's just a complete loss, right? And other clients you're going to feel like, geez, I feel like I did nothing. Like they liked the first place I brought them to. They called me. I didn't even market for them because a friend told them about me. And I made like a high percentage commission on this for some weird reason. Right. And so I understand what you're saying. But if the truth is that it all averages out in the end, and I believe it does, I've experienced it for the last 8 years, 8.5 years, that it does average out in the end. Some clients you make more on, some you make less on. But for every client that runs you around for 2 months, there'll be another one that finds a place in like a day. So that's one man's humble opinion, but
I like
um,
that. I think everything kind of evens out in the end for a lot of things. So I
yeah,
agree with that.
yeah. Um,
Cool.
I don't see any other. Jenny, did you have a question? I see that your hand is raised, but
Jenny had asked if we were recording this webinar. So I let her
oh,
know. I answered her
Jenny,
Q&A
that is a
question.
fantastic question. All right, cool.
Well, yeah, I feel like we've answered all the questions.
Cool.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. But I think that,
Final
yeah, I
thoughts. What
think
do you have, Gabby? What are your final thoughts? Words of
final
wisdom or
thoughts,
encouragement?
final thoughts, kind of like what we've been talking about this whole time, shift your mindset, understand that there is a short-term and a long-term strategy to this game. And if you're closed off to certain things like renters, for example, you're not going to tap into your full potential as a real estate agent. So that's
Yeah.
that's kind of my final thought. What are your, closing
Yeah, my
closing
my
thoughts?
kind of my kind of closing thoughts would be, coming back to mindset and thinking differently, it's important as an agent. And if I could go back and start everything over, knowing what I know now, I recognize now more than ever that real estate is literally just about solving problems. And if we ask questions to our clients, we just ask, tell me about your life, tell me about your situation, tell me about what you want to achieve, what's important to you. We're very caught up in this idea as agents. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We're very caught up as agents that like we are um that the bottom line, right? That everybody just wants the most money. That's not
Yeah.
true. Some people value flexibility. Some people are like, I want to sell this privately. Some people are like, I don't, this sale needs to happen a different way because of certain circumstances. I've dealt with and I'm currently dealing with properties that are surrounded by loss of life. And that's unfortunate, but the way that those properties are handled and how we go about the sales process might be a little different. The problem to solve is a little bit different, right? The
Mhm.
the end result and how we solve the problem, like might be selling the property, for example, could be the same, but the path that we take to get there is different. And so think about things a little bit differently with your mindset. Think about things in a way that allows you to say, okay, I don't just have to solve problems for consumers. How can I solve a problem for another agent? Another agent has a surplus of tenants that they can't work even if they wanted to, but they could make an extra $100 a week because people like me will work those leads and bring them in, rip them, take a rip and whatever. Then great, do that. Gabby can't find a place for her buyer. Okay, cool. Let me go try to find a place for her buyer. I'll make the money on the sale. If they already have an agent, cool. I'll take a referral fee and I'll connect the dots and see my way out. But start stretching your brain and understand that there's nothing wrong with the traditional, but the traditional limits you in the world that we live in today.
That was a great way to end this. I love that.
Love it. Well,
Cool.
thank you for
Well,
having me on, Gabby. Appreciate you letting me run my
thank you.
mouth.
I appreciate you running your mouth. I think everyone else did too. So thank you so much. I want to thank our attendees for being here with us this morning. And again, this is all being recorded. Anyone who's registered, we have your email, so we will send you the link by Monday. And thank you guys so much.
Cool. Thanks, Gabby.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.